When was the last time that you confronted your failures? That's something that I want to talk about today, and I want to kind of explain why not confronting your failure is actually many times what's keeping you from your success, from moving forward. I know that sounds kind of abstract. It might sound kind of abstract, but I'll explain. I feel like it all makes sense by the end of the video. But before I do that, maybe you've been following along for some time and you definitely noticed that I haven't uploaded anything in several months. And I just wanted to quickly address that. I wanted to acknowledge that, yes, I stopped posting for quite some time. And initially, I was kind of making excuses for myself, saying, well, it's just that I'm really busy. I've got a lot of things going on. And I think part of me really believed that. But what was really happening, and now in retrospect, when I think back to it, is that I was discouraged. And I allowed that discouragement to eat away at me. To the point where I just kind of, and all while this was going on, I was ignoring that. And I wasn't admitting to myself that I was discouraged. I was hiding behind excuses that I just got a lot going on, the kids got a lot going on. And so it's just a lot of things, happening right now, and I just don't have the time. And it got to the point where I did that long enough where I'd even just forget. I'd even forget that doing YouTube videos was even a goal, that this channel was even something that I felt strong about, that something that I really wanted to do. And so I finally got to the point where I was like, are you gonna address this or not? Did you quit the YouTube channel, or did you did you shift directions? What is it? But you have to be honest with yourself. And that's the thing that I want to talk about today, because when you're in that weird moment where you realize, man, I'm stuck, I'm not really moving forward, I'm not really where I wanted to be by the end of this year, or I'm not really accomplishing the things that I wanted to do. Sometimes we lose sight as to how we even got there. And that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, because I think that a lot of people are experiencing that and they don't even realize what the root issue is, what is causing this delay, this lack of motivation and things like that. So the first thing that I want to address is breaking through the denial, actually acknowledging the fact that you've quit pursuing this thing, which is, again, this is why I'm even doing this video today, is acknowledging that. And I'm not saying to sit there and mope around and beat yourself up over quitting something, but you have to acknowledge the problem before you can address it. If you think about, if you fall and you scrape your knee, you could just ignore it and say, and not even say anything. You could just ignore that you've even scraped your knee, and you could allow that to just sit there and maybe get infected, whatever the case may be. You could do all of those things until it turns into such a big problem that now you have to do something about it. Or you could see that you've scraped your knee. You could say, I acknowledge this is something that happened, this is a problem, and now I'm gonna do something about it. And you clean it up, and then you put a Band-Aid on it, I don't know, whatever. But you acknowledge the problem and then you address it. What does that look like as an artist? I would say maybe an example for that is or in any kind of art form, whether you're drawing, painting, photography, there's something that you're not good at. You're a photographer and you're not good at shooting indoor, headshots. And so what you do is you just avoid that at all costs. You just avoid it as much as possible. You don't say anything to yourself. You don't say oh no, I'm not very good at that. And you don't do it, and you just avoid it. Same thing for drawing and painting. You're not good at drawing hands or whatever, or drawing eyes or long hair, whatever it is. And so you just avoid doing that thing. When you do that, when you don't acknowledge the problem, you start to just kind of ignore it until it either turns into a bigger problem, or you just forget the reason why you stopped doing it all to begin with. And you eventually get to a point where you think to yourself, man, why am I not good at this thing? It's because you allowed discouragement to keep you from being able to acknowledge the problem and then address it and say, you know what? I can figure this out. it's going to take a little bit of time, but I can figure this out. And that was one of the things that happened to me with this YouTube channel is I wanted results quick. And I didn't say that to myself. And I think I didn't start off that way. I knew that it would take some time, but then when a couple of months went by, I was like, okay, I want to see a little bit more progression than I'm seeing, but whatever, it takes a little bit of time. And then I waited a little bit longer, a couple more months and a couple more months. And when I got to a certain point where I just saw, you know what, I'm not seeing the results at the level that I want. I was getting some results, but I wasn't seeing them at the level that I wanted. I think that's when discouragement started to kick in. And then I allowed the excuses to come in. I allowed the, you know what, today is kind of cloudy out, and the idea that I had for the video was something outdoors, and it's just not gonna work. Maybe next week. You know what, this week it's a lot going on. The kids have practice and whatever, and I just can't, It's not that these excuses weren't real. They were real, legitimate excuses. But I was allowing them to interfere with what I was trying to do because it would give me an out. It would give me an out where it's like, you know what? I didn't fail at the YouTube channel, or I didn't quit my YouTube channel because I wasn't good enough or I wasn't willing to put in the work. It's because life just got in the way. It's because all these other things happened. And I think we do that, man, with so many things in our lives. And again, I'm not saying that you sit there and you say, I'm not good enough, I'm not talented, man, I messed up again. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that if you're not able to acknowledge this is a problem, this is this discouragement that is kicking in, it's gonna try to keep me from doing what I want to do. And I'm not, and it's like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna let it do that today. Like, not today. We're not doing that. We're not going down that road. You have to be able to acknowledge that so that you could address it right there and then be able to move on. And not find yourself like I did months later thinking, whatever happened to my YouTube? Where did I go wrong? Where did I lose interest? And it turns out that I didn't lose interest. I lost hope. I allowed discouragement. I wasn't seeing the things that I wanted at the time that I wanted. And I allowed that to make me feel like, you know what, maybe this isn't the right thing for me. Even though I didn't say that out loud, even though I probably didn't even really think it in my head, but I felt it. I just wasn't admitting it to myself. And that's why I say admitting that problem, acknowledging that problem, acknowledging it from the start, helps you then be able to say, you know what, we're not doing that. Or you know what, that is a problem. I didn't do that right. You know what, I can't really draw the hands well, but you know what, I'm going to practice that for 2 weeks. You know what, I can't really run, 3 miles, but I'm going to run 1 mile for a few weeks. And then I'm going to try to do 2 and then 3. You have to be able to see where that weakness is, acknowledge it, and say, you know what, I'm going to do something about that. So now I'm asking you, is there a failure that you haven't confronted? Is there a failure or something that you've experienced recently that has gone on too long and you just haven't confronted it for whatever reason that may be? For me, it was like I said with this video, with this channel, and part of me really thought like, you know what, I can just jump right in and then just start creating new content and whatever and just, act like nothing happened basically. But I thought, people want honesty. But aside from that, how am I going to be honest with people if I can't even be honest with myself? The point of this is not to beat myself up, but it's to acknowledge this is something that happened, and I want to fix it, and I want to do right. So there's a few things that you want to ask yourself, what can I learn from this? But again, what can I learn from what? You have to determine what is. Is it something that you're trying to get better at? Is it something having to do with your art? Is it whatever that is? You have to be able to acknowledge that and then say how I responded to that. What can I learn from that? How did that work out for me? Did it work out okay? Did I waste a bunch of time? Did it move me further and further away from where I wanted to be? Did it keep me from accomplishing the things that I wanted to accomplish? And then once you've determined that, you start to ask yourself, what can I do to change that? And that goes back to what I said in the beginning, which is how you react, how you respond to those voices of discouragement. There's Bible scripture that talks about that, about taking your thought captive. And a lot of times, and I've heard my pastor talk about this, where it starts with a thought. The things that you do, the actions that you take, they start off as a thought. It starts off as a thought in your mind, and then it turns into an action, a behavior. So what are certain thoughts, certain things that are lying to you, telling you like, hey, you're not really getting the results that you wanted. You're probably not going to get the results that you want. This is probably not for you. You're probably not going to be good enough. These kinds of things that are going on that a lot of times we don't even address it. We just ignore it. And we slowly stop doing whatever that thing is, whether it's a sport, your art, whatever that is, you slowly stop doing it because you're not addressing the actual thing that's going on, which is discouragement. So I want to ask you today, is there something that you've ignored for too long, and that now it's time today to say, you know what, I'm going to address it? For me, it was doing this video and saying, you know what, like I dreaded doing this video in many ways, because I was like, man, I don't want to, I'm just being honest too, like you don't want to put yourself out there like, I was discouraged. I did all these videos, and you go back and you watch them, and then I felt like I wasn't really hitting the mark. People don't like admitting that stuff, and it's common to see people that you don't want to admit that, but I don't want to do that. I feel like it's not going to help the people that I'm speaking to. Maybe you've experienced something like this, and it's not going to help me either. If you follow this channel and you followed me for my art, or whatever the case may be, I've always said I don't have all the answers. I don't have everything figured out. And yes, even at the point that I'm at in my career, again, I don't ever say like, oh, I've made it, anything like that. But I do know that I've recognized that I've gotten to a certain level in my career. I've gotten to a certain point where I'm working professionally. I've been working professionally for many years now. I've been in this industry for almost 20 years. But no matter how much talent, no matter how much experience, no matter how many achievements you have, anyone that is honest with themselves will say that moments of discouragement or doubt or anything, that they do creep in. But how the people respond to that, now people respond to that differently. And the goal is to not allow that to defeat you, to not allow those lies to get in there and then cause you to start giving up on the things that you were meant to do. And so I just wanted to share this video, not just to address the reason why I was gone for several months, although that was part of it, but also to just have a moment of transparency. And I hope that encourages whoever's listening out there in one way or another. The last thing that I want to say as I close out this video is there something, because this is another thought that kind of came into mind as I was working on putting this together, is there something that you decided you're going to start doing in 2025, and you're like, you know what, it's the end of the year, there were certain things that I thought were going to happen in 2024 and they didn't, and even if you're positive about it and you're like, yeah, but I'm going to hit the ground running in 2025, I want to encourage you to do something a little bit different this year. Start now. And I know that like you've probably heard other people say that before, but it's something that I've decided. There's certain things that I kind of had like a short list of like, I'm going to hit the ground running on these things. And I thought, why don't I just start now? Who said that I have to wait until the first, like this reset happens? Or that's not something that we have to actually, like you can start just doing it now. And so there's certain things that I've decided I'm going to just start them now at the end of the year, which is weird because usually people start going to the gym in the beginning of the year. They start a new diet or a new eating habits and things like that. And I want to encourage you, just start doing it now. Address and confront any failure, any anything that you've stopped pursuing, be honest with yourself and say, you know what? Yeah, I did stop doing those things. And I know that I stopped doing that. Sometimes life does actually happen. It does get in the way. But a lot of times I think it's not life. It's something going on up here. And so whatever that is for you, I want to encourage you to silence that voice. Remember what God told you. Remember the desires that He gave you, the passions that He gave you, the things that you know you were created to do. And don't wait until a couple weeks from now. Just start doing it now. But you have to be willing to confront these things, address them, and start working towards that new path, that new, mindset. So I hope that this video encourages you. I hope it made sense. Again, I wanted to just quickly say thank you. If you're listening, if you're new to this channel, then fantastic. If you've been listening or watching for a while and you notice that I was gone, just know that I'm coming back, and I'm excited about very, very cool new things to come. And that's it. That's all I got. So until the next video, keep the fire alive, my friends.